Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to DCC Today, our Monday, Wednesday, Friday program for our Dungeness Community Church family. And you have made it through another week. I'm glad you joined us. We start every day with a photo of the day, and this one came from Carol Gear. And this is a pretty special photo. It's a picture of a rose, and it's a beautiful rose, but you need to know the backstory. Carol says that her beautiful rose came from her 76-year-old rose bush given to me on my first birthday by my grandma. Wow, that is pretty special, Carol. That is a beautiful flower, and you are too, and pretty cool that you still have that to enjoy after 76 years. What a wonderful gift. Don't forget, Sunday morning, 10 a.m., our service will be online. We'll be continuing our series on the book of James, Faith Has Feet, and keep working on that memorization project, James chapter 1, verses 19 through 25. I hope you're making some progress on that. Hey everybody, it's me interrupting myself once again. I jumped in on Wednesday's program and I wanted to jump in again today to mention the drive-by reception that we have planned for Sunday afternoon, this Sunday, from 2 to 3 p.m. here at the church. So everyone can come by and say goodbye to David and Lauren Piper. They are heading off to go to seminary so David can go back to graduate school. This will be their last Sunday. And so I hope that you all can come down to the church Sunday afternoon, 2 to 3 p.m. and just say hello to them and give them some love. So we'll see you then. Thanks. Okay, now I'll let me continue with what we were doing originally. Our devotional thought for today comes from Hebrews chapter 12, the first two verses. Let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. That's our model. We look to Jesus, the one who endured the cross really out of love for us. It says he did it for the joy that was set before him and that he is now seated at the right hand of the throne of God. But if you think about it, he had already been there before he ever came and walked this earth. So it wasn't just the joy of getting back home, but it was the joy that when he got back home, he got there having won freedom and salvation for us. And so he endured hardship because of love. And the call to us is that we would also endure the race that is set before us. So if you are going through a hard time right now, my prayer is that you would be able to endure and to follow after the one who loved you enough to go to a cross and endure that for you. Well, it is a Friday again, and last week I started showing you part of the story of Bob Bourquin, one of the last surviving veterans. At the time this was recorded, when I made this video with him several years ago, he was one of the last surviving veterans from the battle for Wake Island. At this point, I think that all of those veterans are gone from that battle, but it is a stirring story, and I hope that you'll enjoy this next Little Friday installment.
On the 11th, they returned, and they returned in force. And it became a real tough thing to survive. They hit us with everything they had. I remember shells. I was sitting out there gassing up a plane one day, and they started shelling us, and the shells come over with their kind of, and they hit the beach and bounce over us. And then they sent the dive bombers in, and the Zeros. And there was no place that was safe. I remember running up South Beach, trying to find a hole to jump into. And I saw this hole with two guys in it, and I jumped in with them and said, "Get the heck out of this. There's not enough room here. Find another spot." So I got up and I ran about 50 yards and found a rock, and I just kind of molded myself around the rock and watching these bombers stepping their bombs right down the beach. Two men, Corporal Double and Sergeant Gar, the two men that told me to find another hole, they received a direct hit. And we couldn't even find enough pieces to fill the basket. So I just couldn't believe my luck, because everywhere I was seemed to get hit heavily, and I would walk away from it. I didn't receive any wound until almost the end of the war, and I was running down the runway trying to escape this plane that was bombing and machine gunning, and I got a piece of shrapnel. I had a piece in the leg and a piece up here in my shoulder. Dug them out myself. It's hard to explain how you exist in something like that. I remember most of all how difficult it was to keep clean. And I remember one time John Blandy and I were driving through Camp 1 later in the battle, and we decided we'd go to what remained of our tents and get clean clothing. And so we went to the Camp 1, and I found my tent, and my bunk was still there, still made, and my fiance's picture was sitting on the bunk, and my foot locker at the end was still in good shape. So I opened it up and got clean underwear, and I thought, gee, Minnie, this is going to be just great. I put on clean underwear. So we went down to the showers, and we're in taking a shower, and just as we got out of the shower and put on our clean underwear, the bombers came over, and they started dropping bombs all over. So we took off running in our underwear, and I went sliding into a ditch, just came out filthy. And I just felt like, do I ever get any clean clothes again, you know? There were times when you'd look around you and all you'd see was stuff burning and smoldering. And that's when fear would enter in. All Marines trained as infantrymen in their beginning in boot camp. So we were all infantrymen by this time because we had no aircraft to fly. All our aircraft had been damaged. This is where our officers really showed the kind of guys they were. Our major and our executive officer and our pilots went out and met the landing force on South Beach and fought hand to hand. Captain Elrod, we called him Hammering Hank, was killed there. A Japanese, he thought he'd shot and was playing like he was dead. And he got the Congressional Medal of Honor. In my group, I had Corporal Trigo and Sergeant Blandy, and I was with David Trigo, a second lieutenant. He was in charge. So we had 2 boxes of hand grenades, BAR, 2 Thompson submachine guns, and 2 pistols when the Japs made their landing. And what our assignment was, we had 75 cases of dynamite buried in the runway. And we had a generator hooked up to blow it up to keep the Japanese from landing aircraft or dropping parachute troops on the strip. Well, we couldn't get the generator started. And so we had to fight off the Japanese trying to take us over and work on that generator at the same time. And I had to instruct Dave Cleaver, this man that became my best friend. He's gone now. I had to instruct him how to use the weapon because he had never fired a weapon like a Thompson submachine gun. And also Dave, it worried me a bit whether he would be up to, if the Japs jumped in on us and all, because he was a Mennonite. And we'd always wondered about his religious beliefs, whether he would be able to kill somebody. But Dave did very well. He was very brave. But we couldn't blow up the airfield. And the Japs were directing fire, pretty heavy fire on us. And about 100 yards behind us was this 50 caliber machine gun emplacement. And they fired right over our heads. And we had to practically lay down, and they just put a screen of fire right over our heads and take out these Japanese Marines that were trying to hit us. I was only 150 yards from where they drove these two ships right up on the beach. They landed their Marines right over the front of the ships, just up the beach from them, between my position and the landing force, was this 2-inch gun that had been damaged during one of the bombing raids, and it wouldn't elevate. And a young lieutenant of the 1st Defense Battalion, I believe his name was Hanna, he and a couple of civilians and a couple of Marines took over this gun. None of them ever had fired a gun like this, had no experience at all, didn't know what to do, but they bore-sighted in on Patrol Boat 33 as it was coming up the beach. Well, you look down through the barrel, and you line up your barrel with the target. And every time they fire, it would knock them off the firing platform. They had no ear protection or anything. Anyway, they put several rounds into this Patrol Boat 33. The two Japanese patrol boats that were going to land these troops were just shot to pieces. And then our Marines that were right on the beach facing the Japanese landing, they were able to side in and take these Marines out with rifle fire and hand grenades. And I threw hand grenades, but I couldn't throw the distance to these ships. But I was able to take out several Japanese troops that had managed to swim through the coral and up onto the beach and starting inland towards us. So they were very determined. One thing you must say about the Japs during the battles, they were very courageous, fanatical. They'd charge right into fire. And I think one of the things that helped us a lot in our hand-to-hand fighting was they didn't seem to want to fire their rifles. What they wanted to do was use their bayonet, like they were conserving their weapon, their ammunition. And when you go up against a United States Marine with a bayonet, you're going to lose. they considered their loss in taking our island was about 5,000 casualties.
Well, thanks for joining us. I trust you have a great weekend. We'll be back here on Monday morning, and until then, God bless.